Okay, so good morning. It's good to be back. Looking forward to continuing our learning together. Today's daf is Daf Tzadik Daled. We are near the top of Daf Tzadik Daled, Amud Aleph, and let me share my screen and we will get started. So yesterday, near the end of our learning, we learned something that Bar Kapara expounded in Sipori, namely that Sefer Daniel was that Daniel, the person, was given an everlasting name by having Sefer Daniel named after him. And today we begin on the 11th line of Daf Tzadik Daled Amud Aleph with another teaching that Bar Kapara expounded in Sipori. Now we had seen that, in fact, no, you know what? That was enough of a review to go through, and so we have something very interesting. So again, we're on the ninth line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, 11th line, down 9, 10, 11. Second word on the line, Lemarba. Now, in the Gemara, the second letter of Lemarba, the mem, is a traditional mem. But if you were to look in fact, if you take a look, if you have the side Torah or Hashalem, which exists in some Chumashim, which gives the full psukim that are being cited, you can see that the second letter in the first word has, instead of a mem, a traditional mem, it has a mem sofit in the middle of the word. And the difference between a mem and a mem sofit is that a mem sofit is like a complete square, whereas a traditional mem has a hole in it. It isn't a complete circle. It isn't completely inscribed. So now we're going to explain why is it that in this one location in all of Tanakh, at least as far as I know, we have a mem sofit, which is the way the mem looks if it's the last letter of the word, in the middle of a word, right? You would not have a mem sofit ordinarily in the middle of the word. Otherwise, it wouldn't be called a mem sofit. So Lemarbe HaMisra Ulashalom Ein Kates. So the verse literally means to him who increases authority and for peace without end. So what exactly is that trying to say? So Amar Rabbi Tanchum Darash Bar Kapara B'tzipori. So Rabbi Tanchum says that that Bar Kapara taught in and explained this in Sipori. Mibnei Ma, asking the following question: Mibnei Ma kol mem shebe'emtza teba patuach. When it comes to every mem in the rest of Tanakh, it's always going to be an open mem, meaning that the way you draw a mem does not have a full circle in it, does not have any enclosed space. Vizes asum, but this mem is a mem sofit and it's closed. The reason is that this pasuk, which is in Yeshaya, is talking about the previous verse related to Hashem naming King Chizkiyahu as the Prince of Peace. And so as a result, that is often how we define Mashiach. The Mashiach is known as the Prince of Peace. And so what it's saying is that Hashem really wanted Chizkiyahu to be, Chizkiyahu to be the Prince of Peace, to be Mashiach. But the Sanhedrin, Gog uMagog, and Sanhedrin would be the battle of Gog uMagog, which is the battle that precedes the coming of the Messiah. And Amram Midas Hadin Lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But the attribute of justice says to God, Ribono Shalom, Master of the universe, how can you do this? How can you make Chizkiyahu the king? David Melech Yisrael Sha'amar Kama Shiros V'Sishbechos Lefanecha V'Lo Asiso Mashiach. Look, when it came to David Melech, he wrote a whole Tehillim book of tefillot and songs and praises to you, God, and you didn't make him Mashiach. Chizkiah. She'asisa lo kol hanizim halalu v'lo amar shira lefanecha. So you're gonna take Chizkiah, for whom you performed all these miracles. We've been just talking about the saving of Chizkiah from Sanhedrin. That's the topic, and we're going to get back to that topic very shortly. And yet, through all of that, he did not sing songs of appreciation to you, Hashem. Taseu Mashiach, you're going to make him the Messiah. So lekach nistatem, and so as a result, it became closed off, and the mem became closed, and we did not have Mashiach at that time. And so it's highlighting, the name Yehuda is a recognition of an expression of appreciation. So we as Jews who are named after Yehuda, need to always remember that it is extraordinarily important for us to express appreciation to everyone in our life and to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for all the good things that Hashem provides us. So miyad pascha haaretz v'amra lefanav. So immediately the earth responds to God's decision and says the following: Ribono Shalom, God, ani omeret lefanecha shira tachas tzadik zeh. Let me sing the shira in front of you. Yeah. Let me replace. So that's fine. Chizkiah did not. Chizkiah, excuse me, I keep doing that. Chizkiah did not sing shira, but I'll sing shira, and let my singing be in his place, v'aseo Mashiach, and then you can still make him the Mashiach. Pascha v'amra shira lefanav. And so as a result, the earth begins to sing in front of Hashem, as we cite another pasuk from Yeshaya. So shene'amar mikinaf haaretz zmirot shamanu tzvi latzadik. From the edge of the earth we have heard songs, meaning that the earth itself is singing songs. And what are the songs saying? Shamanu tzvi latzadik, that we should do the wish of the righteous, meaning that what is it that the righteous want? Mashiach. And so as a result, this verse, which of course is not actually is not immediately after the mem hasatum, the closed off mem of Lamarba, but it's later on in Yeshaya. But we're going to pretend that verse is an immediate response of the earth. Amar sar ha'olam lefanav. So now meaning that what is this saying? He's saying, minister of the world, Ribono Shalom, tzivyono aseh letzadik zeh, fulfill the wishes of this righteous man, meaning set Chizkiah as the Mashiach. Yotza Basko va'amra, but instead the Basko calls out, and this verse itself says has the next words in the verse, Razili, Razili. It's my secret, it's my secret. And Rashi explains 1, 2, 3 on Talik Dadal Amud Aleph in the narrow lines of Rashi, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11 lines down at the end of the line. Razili, Razili, Nistaro Shalihain. The secrets of the world are mine, God says. Va'ani yodeya al ma'akiv. And I know the reason that I am not going to bring Mashiach at this time. Maybe it is, in fact, because of the Midas Hadin's comment, but the bottom line is that Mashiach doesn't come. Amar Navi. And so now Yeshaya pipes in. So we had the earth respond on the Jewish people's behalf. And now Yeshaya pops in. Oily ad masai, meaning that again, the next words immediately after Razili are oily. And so as a result, what is that oily saying? Oily is woe is me, and that until when do we have to wait for Mashiach to come? And so again, continuing the words of that verse, Yatza Baskol va'amra, and then out comes another voice and a heavenly voice and says, Bogdim Bagdu, Uveged Bogdim Bagdu, which is the last 5 words of the verse, which means that that the treacherous people will deal treacherously, and those who are treacherous for the traitors for the treacherous are going to do treacherously as well, implying Rabbi Yitzchak, and either Rava or Rabbi Yitzchak said, Ad asu bazose uvazose, meaning we're not going to just be, the Jewish people are not just going to be plundered, but they're going to be plundered over and over again. As Rashi says, Ad asi bazose uvazose. Adshinis Bazazu, a line down from where we finished the last Rashi, until the plunderers, Sona Yisrael, those who are haters of Israel, come upon him. They come well, either Sona Yisrael, meaning that they come. This is a lashon saginoar of that the Israel is plundered multiple times, and until that happens, we're not going to have Mashiach. So now that we talked about the when exactly Mashiach is going to come, so the Gemara cites another verse in Yeshaya that also addresses when Mashiach is going to come. And that verse is Parakaf Aleph, Pasuk Yud Aleph, Masa Duma Elai Kore Miseir. So the harsh prophecy of Duma, one who calls to me from Seir. So, and what does he say? Continuing on in the pasuk, Shomer mi milaila, Shomer mi mileil. Who, watchman, what's going to happen of the night? And watchman, what's going to happen of the night? So, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, what does this all mean? Oto Malach Hamamuna al Haruchos Dumahu Shmo. That the name of the person who watches over the spirits, namely the people who are dead, so his name is Duma. Niskabsu Kol Haruchos Eitzel Duma. And so this is saying that all the spirits came before Duma, because everybody wants to know, even if you're dead, you want to know when Mashiach is going to come, because Mashiach is the first step towards Tchias HaMesim, and so Tchias HaMesim will be when the spirits will be able to come back to life. So Amrulo, Shomer Ma'amalayla, Shomer Ma'amileil. What's going to happen at night? Meaning, how long is this night of no Mashiach going to last? As Rashi says, Shomer Mimileil. It's now, we're probably we're closer to the bottom, so it's 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 18, but 20 lines up in the narrow lines of Rashi. Shomer Mimilel, ma davar, ma diber, what are you going to say? Matai ket hageula milel zeh. When is this time period and this night period going to end? So Amar Shomer Ata Boker V'gam Halayla. So the watchman replies, Asa Voker V'gam Laila, that the morning comes and so will the night. So what does that mean? So Im Tevayun Bayu, that if you ask for it, Shuvu Esav, and then you can return and you can and it will come. So what does that mean? So let's take a look. Bayu in Rashi, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines up in Rashi from the bottom of the right-hand column, because actually Rashi is on both sides of the page on this stuff. Bikshu Rachamim, ask for mercy. So first, if you're going to ask for mercy, ask for mercy. Shuvu, and then do tshuva, v'asyo l'geula, and that itself will bring the redemption. And so if we want to know how we can speed up the process of having Mashiach come, we should do tshuva. And if we do tshuva, a valid tshuva for all of the things that we've done wrong, so then Mashiach will come. So Tana Mishum de Rabbi Papayas. So now that we've done this, now the Gemara returns to the story of Chizkiah and how his failure to sing praise to God was a failure, and that this failure is similarly matched by Moshe and the Jewish people who needed Yisro to say Baruch Hashem. So let's take a look. So Tana Mishum Rabbi Papayas, Ganayu Lechizkiah V'siyato Shelo Amra Shira. It's actually a bad thing for Chizkiah and all of the people that were around him, that they didn't say Shira, that they didn't sing songs of praise to Hashem. Ad Shepazka Haaretz V'Amra Shira. It took the earth to go in and sing Shira on their behalf. Shene'amar Miknava Haaretz Zmirot Shamanu. That from the edge of the earth we heard the songs. Tzvilat Tzadik. Do the wish of the righteous, meaning again the verse that we cited a few moments ago. Kayotza b'davar, just like that. Ata Omer, we see in this, you can say the same thing. By Yomer Yisro, that Yisro said, this is in, Parshas Yisro, Perek Yud Chet, Pasuk Yud in Shmot, that what did Yisro say? He said, Baruch Hashem Asher Yitzilskem. Thank God that God saved you. So Tana Mishum Rabbi Papias, and Tana taught in the name of Rabbi Papias, Ganaihu Moshe v'shishim ribo shelo amru baruch. None of the people with Moshe, and Moshe himself did not say blessed. They didn't say Baruch Hashem. Ad sheba Yisro v'amar Baruch Hashem, until Yisro came and said Baruch Hashem. So the Yichad Yitzro, and then having spoken a little bit about Yisro, we continue on in connection with the previous pasuk, where it says that Yisro rejoiced, and Rav Shmuel, they have a dispute about it. Rav Amar Shehevir Cherev Chado al Basaro, that he took a sharp knife against his flesh, meaning that he circumcised himself. Ushmuel Amar Shenasa Chidudin Kol Basaro, that all of his flesh became bumpy. So if we take a look at Rashi, Chidudin, Kimatin, little bumps. Shahaya Mitzar Me'od, that he was very much in pain al Mapelas Mitzrayim, on the downfall of Mitzrayim. That it was sort of like, when you get goosebumps, you have them because, oh my gosh, something bad could have happened to me. And this highlights, Amar Rav, Hainu de Amri Inchi, and some people say it should be Rav Papa. If we take a look at the Masoros Hashas, it changes it to Rav Papa. Amar Rav Papa, Hainu de Amri Inchi, that's what people say, Giora ad Asaradare, that when it comes to a non-Jew, a convert, you have to recognize that until the 10th generation, Lo Tivaza Aramai Kameh, don't embarrass somebody who is and insult somebody who is an Aramean in front of him, because he will feel a special connection to people who are not Jewish, because he's still not Jewish, or he still has a feelings for that. And so as a result, Yisro, who himself was the convert, or maybe even didn't convert, would certainly feel a sense of, oh my gosh, that's so terrible. By the way, it's interesting to think about it, that this also helps us understand, to the extent that people who are not Jewish feel a definite sense of kinship with other people who are not Jewish over people who are Jewish. We see that every day in the news today. So it's something to recognize. This is not a new concept. We should not, we should still fight against it and do what we can to try and counteract it. But we should recognize that this is, in some level, something that is always been the case, and we should not necessarily assume that it will ever stop being the case, even if we should continue to work against it. Okay, look, all right, so now we go back to the story, having taken a very quick break to discuss Yisro. We go back to Chezkiah. L'chein yishalacha Adon Hashem tzvakot b'mishmanav razon. So this is a pasuk. This is a pasuk Yeshaya Perek Yud Pasuk Tet Zayin. So it's unclear what it's referring to. That Hashem should send leanness into his fat ones. So my b'mishmanav zone. What does it mean that he should send leanness into the fat ones? So Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu Yavo Chizkiah sheyesh lo shmona shemos. So it's not shmeinav as in fat, but shmona, that's referring to that the leanness should go into the one who has 8. Sheyavo Chizkiah sheyesh lo shmona shemos, that Chizkiah, who has 8 names, v'yiparem misancheirav shleish lo shmona shemos, that he should also come and punish Sanhedrin, who similarly has 8 names. So Chizkiah diksiv ki yelad yulad lanu bein nitan lanu, that a child is born, a son is given to him. V'tehi hamisra al shechmo, and God's should be on his shoulder. Vayikra shemo, and his name should be called. And this is all Yeshaya Perek Tes Pasuk Hey. And now we're going to go through the names. Pele, Yoetz, wondrous, advisor. Kel, or in this case, El, because it's not a name referring to God. Mighty, Gibor, warrior. Avi, father. Ad, everlasting. Sar, prince. Shalom, peace. That is 8 different names. And so I'm going to try to count it correctly as I was raising my fingers with each of the names, but that was 8 different names. And so 1 second, though, there was a name that we didn't mention. 1 second, but what about Chizkiah? Doesn't that mean that there are 9 names? So no, it means that Hashem strengthened him. It wasn't his actual name. It's just that he was so much strengthened by Hashem that everybody effectively called him that. So davar acher. Alternatively, the meaning of Chizkiah is Chizkiah shechizek es Yisrael la'avim shebashamayim. That it was Chizkiah himself who strengthened Israel's connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As we will see in a moment how he did that. Sanhedrin diksiv Bey. And what about Sanhedrin? How do we have 8 names for that? So Tiglas-Pileser. So Rashi tells us that Tiglas-Pileser is actually just one name. As Rashi says, second line in the left-hand side of Rashi, Tiglas-Pileser, Shem Echadhu. That's just one name. Pilneser, that's number 2. Back into the Gemara. Shalman Eser, that's number 3. Pul, that's number 4. Sargon, number 5. Aspanya, that's number 6. Rabba, that's number 7. Vayakira, and number 8. Va'ika Sanhedrin, but again we left out Sanhedrin again. So what's the story there? So Shesicha so Reeve, because his conversations were very contentious, and so as a result, that's why he was called Sanhedrin. So davar acher, or maybe a different reason that he was called Sanhedrin, Shesach v'nicher duvarim kalape mala, that he spoke in a defying way to Hashem, to the heavens. So Rabbi Yochanan, Mibnei Mazaka Oso Rasha Likros Asnapar Rabba Vayakira. Those last 3 names, Asnapar, Rabba, Vayakira, are good things. They sound like that they were good. So Mibnei Shalo Siper. So again, we're going to use slight versions of it to highlight an aspect of Sanhedrin. Mimnei shelo siper, right? Siper and asnapar are very similar words. Bikenusa shel aretz Yisrael, that he did not that he did not speak about the badness of Eretz Yisrael. Rather, asnapar rabba v'yakira, he spoke about its greatness and its dearness. So shene'amar ad bo ivelakachti eschem el eretz ki artzachem. Because when he was trying to convince the Jewish people to surrender, he said, listen, this is what I'm going to do to you. I'm going to exile you, but I'm not going to exile you to a bad place. I'm going to exile you to a place that's just as good as the land of Israel. Now, and Rashi explains, El Eretz Ka'artzachem, V'lo Amar Muteves Me'artzachem. He could have said, oh, don't worry about it. I'm going to exile you to an even better place. But he didn't say that. He recognized the greatness of the land of Israel, and he didn't say that it was going to a better place. Now, this sentence of the fact that he would send them to not try to send them to a better place, Rav and Shmuel have an argument about it. One says he was smart, and one said he was a foolish king. Lamanda Amar Melech Pikeachaya. So according to the opinion that says he was a clever king. So Amena Lahu Adiva Ma'arayichu. If I tell them that it was going to be better than their own land, Amru Kamashakrat. You're lying. Meaning you can't take us to a better land because this is the best of all lands. So as a result, that's why he said he was going to take them to an equal land. Umanda Amar Melech Tipeshu, and the one who says that the one who says that he was a fool, Imkain, my Rebuse. What kind of argument is that? You should let me plunder your land because I'm going to send you to a land that's just as good? No, if you're trying to make an argument to somebody to surrender, say to them that you're going to give them something better than they currently have. So that was foolish of him to try and not say that they were going to get something better. in any event, that debate relates to this understanding. And again, Rabbi Yochanan obviously would be more similar to the one who says that it was clever because he was clearly trying to do something intentionally. Okay, so lahechi agle lahu. So Rashi tells us 1 to 3rd line down in the narrow lines on the left-hand side of the page. Lehecha aglinhu Sanhedrin la'aseres hashvatim. Where did the Sanhedrin who exiled the 10 northern tribes, where did he exile them to? Diksiv, because it says vayinachem b'chelach ubechavur nahar gozin va'ari madai. So Hai Ninhu Otan Makomos. Where are these places that it says that he sent him to? So, right, it says the king of Syria carried Israel away into Assyria and settled them in Chala and Chabor, the Gozan River, and the cities of Media. So where are all those places? So Mar Zutra Amar La Africa. Mar Zutra says they are all in Africa. Rabbi Chanina Amar La Hare Slug. No, they're in the mountains of Slug. So Ava Yisrael. Okay, so that is the end of that brief aside. And now we go back to distinguish that whereas we just said that Sanhedrin was not going to say how there are other lands that are better than Israel, unfortunately, as is often the case, the Jewish people don't live up to that status, don't live up to that quality. Aval Yisrael, Sipra Beganusa Shel Eretz Yisrael. They did speak derogatorily about Eretz Yisrael. Kimatu Shosh, when they got to Shosh, Amre Shavya Ki Arin. It's equal to our land. Ki meaning Shosh has similar words to Shavya. It's equal to Kimatu Almin. And when they came to Almin, they said Amru Ki Almin. It's like our world. Meaning it's like Eretz Yisrael. Kimatu Shosh Trey. And when they got to Shosh Trey, Amru al Chad Train. It's doubly as good as the land of Israel. So as a result, it shows that we were not, again, we need to recognize that not only were we not thankful for what we had, but for Hashem saving us, but when we got exiled, we were, we did not appreciate the land of Israel from which we were being exiled. V'tachas kvodo yekad yekod kikod ish. So again, continuing on our analysis of Yeshaya and how it relates to this battle with Sanhedrin. So now we're going to have the Gemara is going to detail how the Assyrian soldiers were killed and contrast God's involvement in the killing with God's involvement in Egypt. So the pasuk says, "And beneath his honor there shall be kindled a flame like the burning of a fire." So I'm Rabbi Yochanan, Tachas Kvodo. It shows that only beneath the honor of the soldiers, that's where they were burned. V'lo Kvodo Mamish, but not their actual honor, meaning not their actual body. Kihada Rabbi Yochanan. I'm sorry, but this does not refer to what we actually would call what ordinarily we might call honor. That usually we refer to honor as the body and not to the clothing. But here we're talking about just the clothing. Kihada Rabbi Yochanan, Karile Lamane Machbuduse. That Rabbi Yochanan used to refer to his clothes as the things that honor me, meaning that their entire bodies were burned rather than just their souls being burned. So essentially, basically, their entire bodies were burned, but not their clothing. Rabbi Elazar says no. Tachas kvodo mamish. No, when it says beneath their honor, it means their actual honor, meaning that their bodies weren't burned, only their souls were burned. As Rashi says, Tachas kvodo 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines up in the Rashi on the left-hand side of the page. Tachas kvodo mamish, Tachas gufo mamish, underneath their physical body, shaguf kiyem, that their bodies survived, the neshama nisrefes, and only their souls were burned. So, And how do I know that? Kisreifas b'nei Aaron. It was just like the two sons of Aaron, Malahalan, Sreifas neshama v'guf kayam, Avkan Sreifas neshama v'guf kayam. Just as the sons of Aaron's bodies remained intact, but their souls were burned, so too was the case with the soldiers of Sanhedrin. So Tanash made the Rabbi Yoshua ben Karka, Paro shecherif ba'atzmo, Nifrei HaKadosh Baruch Hu mimenu ba'atzmo. That when it came to Paro, Rabbi Yeshua ben Karka says, Paro, he blasphemed God directly. And so as a result, God took the direct action to punish Paro. Sanhedrin, shecherif, as we turn to Tzadik Dalet Amabet, al yedei shaliach, Sanhedrin blasphemed God through a messenger. So Nifra HaKadosh Baruch Hu mimenu al yedei shaliach. And so too, Hashem punished Sanhedrin through a messenger, meaning that when Sanhedrin addressed the city, with the blasphemy, he didn't do it himself. Rather, he sent his servant Rav Shaka to deliver the address, and so that's what it's referring to. So Paro, how do I know about Paro? Mi Hashem asher eshma b'kolo. Who is this God that I should listen to him? So Nifra Kadosh Baruch Hu mimenu ba'atzmo. So as a result, Hashem punished him directly. Diksiv vayinaer Hashem es Mitzrayim b'soch hayam. That Hashem churned Egypt in the midst of the sea. Uksiv darachta v'yam suseha. And you have trodden in the sea with your horses, etc. So as a result, we see that Hashem did it directly. Sanhedrin ksiv, but when it comes to Sanhedrin, biyad melachecha charavta Hashem, through your messengers you have blasphemed Hashem. So Nifra Kadosh Baruch Hu mimenu al yedei shliach. So too Hashem punished him through a messenger. Diksiv vayetze malach Hashem vayach banachem ne'ashur me'ah shmonim chamisha elef. That in fact an angel of Hashem went out and slew 185,000 in the camp. Okay, so now again, continuing our discussion of Yeshaya and the psukim that relate to Sanhedrin and the battles. So Rabbi Chanina bar Papi had pointed out a contradiction, because there is both Chizkiah and Yeshaya prayed to Hashem for deliverance from Sanhedrin, and Hashem responds to each of them. Once it's told in Yeshaya, Perek Lamed Zayin, and once it's told in Malachim Bet. And there's distinctions between the two, because Ksiv Mirom Kitzo, that Hashem's going to come to its most remote height, Uksiv Milon Kitzo, and then it's going to come to its most remote lodge. So what does it mean? Why are those two different phraseologies? Amar Oto Rasha. So the idea is that Sanhedrin said, B'tchila achariv dira shalmata. First, it's this is what Sanhedrin boasted. I said it maybe was Hashem's response, but this is what Sanhedrin was saying. Sanhedrin was saying, I'm going to come to its most remote height. I'm going to come to its lodge. So what does it mean? B'tchila achariv dira shalmata. Originally, I'm going to get Hashem's dwelling place here on earth. I'm going to destroy the base of Mikdash. And then I'm going to destroy God's dwelling place in the heavens. So I'm Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. My diksiv ata hamibalade Hashem alisi ala makom hazeh v'hashchiso. So what is it when it says, this is in Malachim Bet, Perek Yudchet Pasuk Kaf Hey, Hashem amar elai alei al haaretz hazos v'hashchisa. So maihi. So again, the verse all means, could it be that without Hashem, I've come up against this place to destroy it? This is Sanhedrin speaking. Rather, Hashem has said to me, go up against this land and destroy it. So this is Sanhedrin saying to himself that Hashem wants me to destroy this land. So Maihi, what exactly is going on here? As Rashi says, first narrow line in the Rashi on the right-hand side of the page. Where was it that Hashem told Sanhedrin to do any kind of destruction? So Sanhedrin heard the prophet Yeshaya say the following: Ya'an kimas ha'am hazeh esmei shiloach ha'olchim la'at. That since the people has rejected the waters of the Shiloach that flow gently, meaning that they've rejected the rulership of Chizkiyahu. So umisos es Ritzin ben Ramalyahu. So, and then instead they have rejoiced in Ritzin and Ramalyahu. Ritzin and Ramalyahu are, referring to, and the son of Ramalyahu, which is Pekach, and they are the Pekach ben Ramalyahu, who was the leader of the kingdom of Israel, meaning of the top 10 of the 10 northern tribes, and Ritzin refers to the Aramean king. So they preferred them, and so as a result, they were going to be punished, the 10 northern tribes. So Amar Rav Yosef, ilmale targuma dahai kra lo haviyadana my kamer. If it weren't for the so now another verse that relates to this topic, we wouldn't know what it means without the Targum. Because what does the pasuk say? This pasuk is this is the pasuk that we were just talking about, the rejecting of the waters of the Shiloh that flow gently. I've given you the interpretation as we're about to see. So chalaf de katz ama hadein b'malchusa to base David, that since his people has despised the kingship of the Davidic dynasty, the midaber lahon b'niyach, that speak to the people in a nice way, k'mei shilocha denagdin b'nayach, just as the waters of the Shiloh flow gently. The Isriyu biritzin uvar Ramalya, and instead they prefer Ritzin and the son of Ramalyahu. So as a result, this shows exactly that what we were just saying, that the 10 northern tribes refused to join back up with Chizkiyahu, even though he was a much nicer king. They preferred, and was more modest, etc. They preferred their ostentatious leader. Okay. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, my diksiv me'eras Hashem beveis Rasha unevei tzadikim yivarech. So, what does it mean when it says the curse of Hashem is in the house of the wicked, but God shall bless the dwelling of the righteous? Me'iras Hashem beveis Rasha ze Pekach ben Ramalyahu. So the curse of Hashem is in the house of the wicked. That refers to Pekach ben Ramalyahu, the king of the 10 northern tribes. Shahaya ochel arbaim sa gozalot b'kinuach seuda. He was a glutton. He would eat 40 saws of young birds just for dessert. Unvei tzadikim yivarech, and God should bless the dwelling of the righteous. Chizkiah Melech Yehuda. This refers to Chizkiah, the king of Yehuda. Shahaya ochel litra yarak b'seuda. He would just have a liter of vegetables for his entire meal, not a tremendous amount, about 6 eggs worth of space. So he did, was a much more modest eater. And again, the question is what kind of leader do you want? Do you want a more modest leader or a more ostentatious leader? And this is telling us we should look for more modest leaders. L'chein hinei ad Hashem ma'aleh aleim es mea nahar ha'atzumim v'harabim es melech Ashur. And so Yeshaya says, this is Yeshaya Perek Chet, Pasuk Zayin and Chet, that therefore the Lord is going to bring them the mighty and massive waters of the river, the king of Assyria. Uksiv v'chalaf b'Yehuda shataf avar ad savar yagia. And then in the next verse, it says the river is going to sweep through Yehuda, overflowing as it passes through, up to the neck it's going to reach. So again, this prophet tells the fact. So now this answers the question that we began a long time ago, which was, what was it that Sanhedrin heard that made him think that he was going to be able to succeed in attacking Yehuda, that he would then say that Hashem gave him the strength to do this. Elamai taima iyanish. So okay, well, if all this is true, then why was Sanhedrin punished? So Navi A'aseres Hashvatim Isnabe. Well, he was punished because the Navi was only referring to the destruction of the 10 tribes, not to the destruction of the Shevet Yehuda. So Iu Yaev Daite Al Kula Yerushalayim, but Sanhedrin thought it was also applying to Yerushalayim. So Ba Navi Amarlai, and the Navi said that Sanhedrin would not be successful because it says Kilo Mu'af La Asher Mutzakla, that there's no weariness for the one who oppresses her. So Amar Rabbi Elazar bar Berechia, what does that mean? Ein nimsar am ayef, the nation that is wearied by Torah, by studying Torah, biyad mi hametziklo is not going to be delivered into the hand of those who oppress it, meaning it's not going to be delivered to Sanhedrin, because we specifically noted how we specifically noted how Chizkiyahu was encouraged the learning of the Torah. So my Ka'es Harishon Hekal Artsan Zvulun of Artsan Naphtali. So what is the rest of that verse where it says the first time he dealt mildly, exiling only the land of Zvulun and the land of Naphtali, but the last time he dealt harshly, exiling those who lived by the way of the sea. Eved HaYarden Galil HaGoyim, in the Transjordan and in the attraction of the nations. So what does that all mean? Lo karishonim shehekelu me'aleihem ol Torah. That the fate of the first kingdom is not going to resemble the fate of the first ones, meaning that, the fate of the kingdom of Yehuda is not going to resemble the fate of the first 10 tribes, because the 10 tribes lighten the yoke of Torah upon themselves. But the last ones, the ones who still had the Torah yoke of Torah on them, and therefore are worthy to have miracles for them, just like those who cross the sea and cross the Yarden. Im choser bo mutav. If Sanhedrin changes his mind, that's going to be fine. V'im lav ani lo galil b'goyim. I'm going to end up destroying his army. So even though it sounds like the one who were dealt with last is being dealt with by Sanhedrin, and it's actually referring to the Jewish exile, it's not. That we should understand that first you had the exile of Zvulun and Naphtali, and then we have the choice. Is Sanhedrin going to try and deal harshly with the rest of the Jewish people who are learning Torah? Because if he is, then he's going to be in trouble. And of course, he ended up continuing his attacks. And so as a result, he was in trouble. Okay, so Acharei Dvarim v'ha'emes ha'ela. And so the verse continues that after these things and this truth, Sanhedrin melech Ashur v'yavo v'Yehuda v'yichan al ha'arim ha'betzuros. Sanhedrin came and invaded Yehuda and set up against the fortified cities. Vayomer levik amelav, and he planned to breach them so that he could take them. Hai rishna lahai pardashna. So this is the reward for this nobleman. Meaning, why did Chizkiyahu, who worked so hard on behalf of Hashem, and why was he invaded at all? So acharei hadvarim va'emes. So the point is after these things and this truth, achar mai, what is that referring to? Amar Ravina la'achar shekafat hakadosh baruch hu v'nishba va'amar. This is after Hashem swore, saying the following: I amina le lechizkiah. If I tell Chizkiah, my sina le l'Sanhedrin masarna le biyadach, that I'm going to go ahead and give Sanhedrin to you, and I'm going to deliver him into your hand. Hashta Amar, Chizkiah will think, Lo hu ba'ena below bi'asusa ba'ena. Listen, I don't want him. I don't want his fear. I'm not interested in any of this. So miyad kavatz hakadosh baruch hu v'nishba. So as a result, Hashem swore the following quickly. I'm going to bring Sanhedrin to Yerushalayim. Shneamar nishba Hashem tzvakot lemor. That Hashem, the hosts said the following: Im lo kasher demisi kain haisa, as I have thought if it should come to pass, v'kasher ya'atzti hi sakum, and as I planned, it's going to happen. Lishbor Ashur ba'artzi, that I'm going to break Ashur in my land. Val harai avusena, and I'm gonna and on my mountains I'm gonna trample him. V'sar ma'alehu ulo, and I'm gonna remove his yoke from the people. V'subalu me'al shichmo yasur, and his burden is going to be removed from their shoulders. So the point is that Hashem was trying to do something good to take away the yoke of Sanhedrin, but it's going to be a stressful moment. And so if he told Chizkiah then he would, Chizkiah would say, I don't want it. I'd rather just keep everything the way it is. We're often afraid of doing the steps that we need to do because it takes work to do the steps that we need to do to improve our lives. And this is highlighting that sometimes Hashem, if we don't take the steps ourselves to improve our lives, so Hashem will, God willing, facilitate. And sometimes the troubles that we have are only in order for Hashem to make things better for us. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, Yavo Sanhedrin b'siato. So Hashem said, let Sanhedrin and his followers come and attack. V'yasav evus l'chizkiah v'siato. And they're going to become a trough for Chizkiah and his followers, meaning that they're going to be able to eat from everything that they've got. And it shall come to pass on that day that his burden shall be removed from your shoulder, and his yoke from upon your neck, and his yoke shall be destroyed because of the fat. So what is that referred to? Amar Rav Yitzchak Nafka, Hubal ol shall Sanhedrin mipnei shamno shall Chizkiah. That the yoke of Sanhedrin was broken by the oil of Chizkiah. What oil was Chizkiah have? He left the lights on in order for the Beit Midrash and the shuls the study halls to continue to operate. Masa. What exactly did he do? Meaning, what was this connection that Chizkiah had to bring people closer to Hashem? He put a sword on the study hall and said, that anybody who is not going to study Torah is going to be pierced by this sword. I wonder whether one can say that actually would rephrase this slightly and say that, listen, you have two choices. Either you study Torah or you take a sword and defend the people and go fight, which is exactly what some of the issues that are going on today in Israel. All right. So they checked from Dan until Beersheba, meaning from the north until one end of Israel to the south. And they didn't find a single uneducated person. Migvas ad Antipras. And they searched from Givas until Antipras. These are, two border towns, according to Rashi, that are presumably the east and the west. V'lo matzu tinok v'tinokas ish v'isha. They didn't find a boy or a girl, a man or a woman. Shelo hayu v'kiyin behilchos tuma v'tara. That everybody knew the laws of tuma and tara. V'al osu ador hu omer. And when it came to that generation, people would say, v'haya b'yomahu ish eglas bakar ushtetson, that every man will raise a heifer of the herd and two sheep. V'omer, and it says v'haya b'yomahu yiyeh kol makom asher yiyeh sham elef gefen ve'elef kasef l'shamir v'lashayat yiyeh. That every place where there's 1,000 vines worth 1,000 pieces of silver, there will be briars and thorns. Even though they are going to have lands that is so valuable that 1,000 vines are worth 1,000 pieces of silver, the land's going to be for briars and thorns, meaning that the people are going to neglect the land because they're going to be studying Torah. That shows how successful Chizkiah was at promoting the study of Torah in the land of Israel. And your booty is going to be gathered like the gathering of the locusts. Amar lahem Navi Yisrael. The Navi said to Yisrael, Navi Yeshaya said, Isfu l'shlalchem. Gather your booty from the camp of the Assyrians. Amrulo, livzos olachalot. Can we plunder it, or do we need to divide it? Meaning, does each person keep whatever they get, or do we have to divide it equally? Amar lahem osef hachasil. It should be like the gathering of the locusts. Ma osef hachasil kol echad ve'echad la'atzmo. Just as when it comes to the locusts, everyone gets what they get, meaning people aren't interested in locusts. And so you don't need to divide it with others. Everybody can take whatever he wants, because the point is there's so much that you don't need to worry about it. Amrulo. But when second, this money, this wealth that the that the army of Sanhedrin would have was taken from the Jewish people, from the 10 tribes that he exiled. So Amar Lahen, Kimashak gave in Shokekbo. It's like the roar of water in pools that he roars in. So Ma gave him halalu ma'alin es ha'adam mituma l'tahara, just as rushing waters in pools will transform a person from tuma to tahara. That as soon as the money of some Jews gets stolen by others and it gets put into the hand of the people who are not Jew, it becomes pure again. And so as a result, it's no longer viewed as the money of the original owner. And as such, if another Jew captures it in battle, it's considered as if they can take it. Kidra Papa, Ezra Papa says, Damar of Papa, Ammon uMoav Taharo b'Sichon, that the property of Ammon and Moab was cleansed by Sichon. And that's why we were able to take the lands of Sichon, even though it had been previously that of Ammon and Moab, and we weren't supposed to take the land of Ammon and Moab, but once Sichon took it, so then we had the ability to take it for ourselves. So we'll stop there, and God willing, we'll pick up from there tomorrow. So we're not quite finished with our discussion of Sanhedrin, but for the conclusion of that conversation, that discussion, stay tuned for tomorrow's daf. Wishing everybody a Shabbat Shalom.
Yes.
Shabbat Shalom.
How these dafim still connect to the modern day and things that are happening today. When, whether you're
Well, who
talking
took
about
the property there?
the Sancheriev's army took the property, and then because Sancheriev's army got killed by Hashem, so then the property was left there, and all the people of Yehuda were able to take it for themselves.
Oh, they could take what Sancheriv had taken.
Exactly. That's the point that the Gemara is saying, that the because Sancheriv had taken it by force, and essentially the Jewish people in the 10 northern tribes had been exiled and were no longer expecting to ever get any of their things back. So as a result, they would be, the Jewish people could keep the booty that they took from Sancheriv himself.
But weren't they just reclaiming their, I'm a little confused, weren't they just reclaiming their own property? Sancheriv had taken it from them, so they could take it.
No, Sancheriv took it from the northern tribes. The northern tribes Sancheriv exiled, so they were no longer there. Now he comes to Yerushalayim with all the booty from his initial travels, from all of his warring, and now he and all of his army are killed by the angel of Hashem. And so as a result, now the Jewish people come into the camp and they're able to take whatever they want because there's no army left. And the property that it includes property that was taken from the northern tribes.
No, what I'm saying is they were taking property back from the Jewish people. This was originally the property of the Jewish people, right? So in a sense, they were reclaiming.
Yes, in a sense that, well, of course, some of the booty belonged to other nations that Sancheriv fought with along the way. But yes, okay. Most definitely, some of the booty belonged to the 10 northern tribes. The key is that it wasn't these particular people's booty that was. They weren't recapturing their own property. Only in a broad sense, they were recapturing Jewish property. If that's what you mean, then yes.
Right. So then, if there were, I mean, one could postulate that if these in the southern tribes, people in the southern tribes knew who their neighbors were in the north, they could return it to them. If you take that another step.
No, the problem is that those 10 northern tribes had been exiled by Sancheriv. They didn't know where they were. They were spread around the world.
Oh, I see.
That's the problem. So they couldn't even do that kind of return. But the expectation is that in those situations, one would give up hope. And so as a result, that's why we would allow them to continue to keep the property itself.
All right. Say it that way.
Have a wonderful Shabbos.